So welcome everyone. I know for some it is good morning and for others it is good afternoon, but a welcome to all of you to Race Demystified Town Hall with Milagros Phillips. Thank you for making the time to participate in our collective healing of racism. We're so excited to be here with you. As you enter the room, please let us know where you're joining us from in the world. Also, in a little bit, we're going to launch a poll. Just as I finish the announcements, we'll launch a poll for you that we'd love for you to take part in, just a short one. My name is Jacqueline. I'll be moderating this program with Milagros. You can private message me throughout the program at any time if you have any questions. I think that most of you are familiar with Zoom, but we'll go over just a few housekeeping items for today. We invite you to use the chat box to drop notes or questions. I will be moderating the chat box throughout the program. You'll be able to send notes and comments to the whole group or to message me privately. Please keep your mics muted to keep background noise to a minimum, but please feel free to unmute when asking questions. To ask questions, you'll be able to raise your hand at the bottom of your screen, unmute, or just type into the chat room. This program is being recorded. A playback recording will not be available.
Yes, it will. I'm sorry about that, Jackie.
Oh, it will. Okay.
The recording will be available. Yeah, it'll be a public recording.
Wonderful. This is a live program, but there will be a recording made available at a later date. Thank you, Milagros, for hearing that. And all information shared in this program is protected by copyright. It is not to be recorded, transcribed, or shared with anyone. Please have paper and pen ready for writing and taking notes throughout the program, and please stay hydrated. For those of you who are new to Milagros, Milagros is an author, seminar leader, and race coach. He has spent the last 30 years bringing race literacy to universities, national leaders, corporations, and nonprofits. Her historically grounded research and science-backed programs on race are powerful and transformative. Milagros is the author of 11 Reasons to Become Race Literate, 8 Essentials to Race Conversation, Speaking Race in Healthcare, and the soon-to-be released Cracking the Healer's Code, a prescription for healing racism and finding wholeness. We also have for you just a few announcements on some upcoming programs that are taking place on July 17th from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Race and Money. On August 6th and 7th, from 12 noon to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Race Demystified. This program is also being offered again on August 11th and 12th from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We also, for those of you who have taken part in the Race Demystified, we have a higher level program for you coming up. It's a year of racial sobriety. This 12-month program is only available for those who have completed the Race Demystified program. This powerful and transformative program is designed to keep participants of Race Demystified racially sober. It is created to help you fine-tune the learning, get you deeper into the healing, and ground you in your body. Each month, we will tackle a stage of healing, peeling away layers of racial conditioning. I'll be providing to you the link for more information on this program in the chat box, as well as the dates of the upcoming program. So now it's my pleasure to turn things over to Milagros Phillips.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have all of you here with us. Those of you who have not put in where you're from in the chat, please do. I always take a look once we're done, and I can just sort of focus. I always like to take a look and see where people are coming from. I decided to put together this town hall because it's been 20 years since the first Race Demystified program took place in, let's see, where were we? We were in Michigan, in Battle Creek, Michigan. And I've been doing this program consistently for the past 20 years. at some point just like begging people to please come to this program, because I knew how powerful that information is and how it can change people's lives. So so we're here, and I am very excited to have all of you. Please take a moment to fill out the poll. I always need to get a sense of how many of you are new, because if all of you have heard me speak before, then I don't have to introduce myself. I give you more details about myself because you already have some information. But if there are new folks that are here with us, then I just need to get a sense of who is new, so that I can go ahead and do a little bit of an introduction and get us going. So I am so excited about today. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait, because some of you on this call just did the program a few weeks ago. Some of you did this program 10, 15, 20 years ago when I first started. And I'm just honored and humbled to have all of you with us. So as soon as the poll is done, I'm going to have Jack. I think we're good with the poll. Jacqueline, you want to just give us some percentages?
Oh,
So
sure.
that we can, yeah.
For the first time with one of the Race Healer programs, 41% of today's audience, it's their first time. How did you hear about this program today? 32% heard about it through a newsletter, 12% social media, and 56% from a friend or colleague. And have you attended other race-related courses? 76% yes, and 24% no.
Great. All right. Welcome. This is great. I'm excited. This is wonderful, because we're sort of all over the place, which is exactly where our country is and exactly where racism is at any given point in time. So I'm thrilled to have you here. And I'm just going to do a quick intro for those of you who are new to my work, to give you a little bit of my background and some things that you may not know just by looking at me, right? So I was born and pretty much raised where the Middle Passage began. A lot of people don't realize that the Middle Passage actually began in the Dominican Republic in 1509, where they brought the first Africans to work on the sugarcane plantations. I've experienced racism in at least 2 languages. And I also look at race as both an insider and an outsider, which gives me a very unique perspective. As an outsider, obviously, because I wasn't born in the US, Spanish is my first language. And as an insider, because as a Black woman, people look at me and they just assume that I'm African American. A lot of people don't know that I speak Spanish, and so on and so forth. This is my family. Most of them are now my ancestors. And the folks in the middle are my father. The young guy in the uniform is my father. These are my father and mother, and these are my siblings. My parents were married for about 47 years, and we have a long history of a lot of long marriages. My oldest brother was married for 69 years when he passed away. This little kid here with the funny face, just kind of proud looking up, is still married. He's been married for over 60 years. And this is my grandmother. And these are a couple of my nieces. So I wanted to introduce you to some of my ancestors, as well as some of my family members who are still living, because I do this work in honor of my ancestors and as a way of creating a better world for those who are here and those who are to come. I am an artist. I think like an artist. I process the world through the eyes of the artist. These are some of my paintings. And I love the arts. I think I came in enamored with all the arts, from dancing to singing to performing and so on. So as a healing practitioner, I am a Reiki master and teacher and have been since the early 90s. All of my children are Reiki trained. My daughter has been a Reiki master and teacher since she was like 15 years old or so. I'm a meditation teacher. I've also taught and will probably forever be a student of A Course in Miracles. And I'm also a sound therapist. All of that great training that I got when I was a youngster, wanting to be an opera singer. And I got wonderful training with some really amazing teachers from the Metropolitan Opera House in New York, who used to teach at the American School of Music. I turned all of that knowledge, which of course back then I had no idea what I was studying that for, but I turned that into some sound therapy courses, and my students have gone on to do some really wonderful things with sound. I got my calling on the day that Dr. King died. I was 13 years old, and I locked myself in the bathroom to cry because I was so upset over what had just happened. And I was certain that there was no way I was ever going to do race work. From that moment on, I fought it. I stayed away from it, didn't want to have anything to do with it. And yet, as time went on, I found myself talking about race. Even when I was doing diversity work in organizations, somehow the conversation on race would always arise. And so I finally said yes to my calling. And as a result, here is the work that I've come through, that has come through me as a result of saying yes. So I've been doing this work for over 30 years, as was mentioned before. I'm a race equity coach, which, by the way, there is no such thing, right? Like as a career, right? But what I've done is I've taken all my knowledge and ability and all the things that I've learned from doing this race work for 35 years, and I've transferred those skills to my coaching career, and have very successfully coached quite a few leaders, and they love the coaching program. And I've worked with corporate leaders from all over, including members of Congress. And as was mentioned before, I've written 3 books, and my latest book will be out in August. So I want to just acknowledge, because I don't always stop. I'm always like, I just got to get the work done, right? I don't always stop to acknowledge that I've been doing this work for a really long time. And this year, 2021, is exactly 20 years that I have been doing this one particular program. I do a lot of programs, and I customize programs for organizations. But this particular program, Race Demystified, is exactly 20 years old this month. So I want to, I want us to have an awareness as we begin this conversation about, the fact that I'm also celebrating the fact that I've continued to do this work in spite of everything, and bring this work out into the world. So what I would like to do is I want to open up the floor to the folks who have been through the Race Demystified program. And what I want you to do is to just kind of tell us a little bit about why you even came to something like this, and especially if you came to something like this years ago, right? Or if you came to something like this a couple of months ago or a month ago, when 30 days, it's been around 30 days since we did the last program. What drew you to come in the first place, and what you feel you got out of it as you went through the program? So I will open up the floor and see who would like to start, and then we'll talk about some of the things that are being brought up. So, and Jacqueline, I don't know if you had questions in the chat or anything like that, but we can definitely, if you're shy and you don't want to raise your hand, you can certainly send the questions to Jacqueline and she'll read them to me. But questions, comments, what brought you to this program, and what did it mean to you to go through it? And by the way, you can just open up your mic and start talking. That's the way we do it around here.
I don't mind starting. This is Melon talking.
Hi, Melon.
Hi, Milagros. It's really nice to see you and nice to be here with all my course buddies from May, if they're here. I see some of them here. Yeah. What brought me was I felt like I didn't know what I didn't know. And you got to find out what you don't know that you don't know. And I really appreciated the time we spent in the course, which I think was 10 or 12 hours or something like that. I appreciated the points that you made, the things people said, the points that the people of color made. I was really grateful that there were people of color, a lot of people of color in the workshop, as well as white people, those of us who have so much to learn. I think it's fair to say. What I got out of it was some new awareness of my ignorance, which I really appreciated, but also an awareness that my ignorance wasn't as bad as I was afraid it might be. And I took a big risk at the end of that workshop, to say something that had happened to me in my work. And I got a huge amount of support from my course mates to hang in there through this processing of it with you, Milagros. And I felt like I got a lot from that. It was very helpful. So not to take up too much time, I just want to say I'm very grateful. It was a beginning. When I finished it, I called my sister right away to say, this is what I did. And she said, I've been wanting to do that. This is what I want to sink my teeth into now that I'm retired. I got to get more involved with this. I had no idea.
Wow.
So yeah, that was really a neat thing.
That's great. Wow. Thanks so much, Melon, for sharing that. And let her know we've got a couple of them coming up in August. And I did that because several people have asked, when is the next one? Because they have friends and family that they would love to go through that program. So I think Jacqueline put some of the links in the chat. So you're welcome to do that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Melon. I really appreciate that. Okay, who's next? I think, did I see Joya's hand up? Let's see, did we lose Joya? Okay, all right, who's next?
Minal's hand is up.
Oh, hey, Minal, how are you?
Hi, good morning, Milagros. Actually, it's spelled Minal.
Minal.
Or pronounced Minal, I should say.
Thank you.
Let's see. I came across you, I think, 4 years ago through the Regina Thomas Showers, Mama Gina's community.
Yeah.
And I remember just being struck. There was so much upheaval going on in that community at the time, so much blame, so much anger, so much grief coming out of that community about some of the racist events that had been happening at the time. And just 100%, I heard about the workshop you had done, and every single woman, regardless of her race, color, background, came out having learned something. And that's what really caught my attention, was that there's something here in the space that you hold that everyone can come out with what they need the most. And I remember contacting you at the time, wanting to bring you out to Ventura County, and it didn't work out at the time. And so I'm so grateful that I could take your program online last month with Melon and with some of the other attendees that are here today. And what I got from it was, I came in in the middle of a rift with a friend of mine, who, this friend has one of the biggest hearts that I have ever come across. She is the type of person where people come up in the middle of grocery stores or in the airport, strangers will come to her and they'll share with her like their pains that they're going through, because she is so open and caring. And yet I was in the middle of a rift with her, because I was having conversations with her this past year, and she would say these small little things that on the surface seemed innocuous, but on this deep, like, felt level, it just felt like I felt like something was stabbing me. And I came here in pain because I had said something, created a lot of hurt for her. She experienced a lot of hurt from what I said, and I was really looking for a way to heal that rift. And through what I learned, I got to see both sides of what was going on. I got to find a way to bring myself back into a place of love, but also truth, so that I could approach her. I sent her a letter, acknowledging like how beautiful a person she is, and also sharing with her what was occurring to me during the midst of these conversations. And I'm really, really thrilled to say that she texted me as soon as she got the letter, and I could feel it in her text that I had diffused some of the hurt and pain, and I had addressed it. And if it weren't for this, like, that would have been the end of almost a 20-year relationship. Like, I don't know if I would have found a way to come back into connection with her. And what I really got to see, which was eye-opening for me, was how, coming from an Indian background, so coming from a country where we've been colonized, how I've internalized racism. And so there's a way in which it's like, I couldn't actually speak up when these things were happening because it's actually against my culture and against my conditioning to say something. And so I really got to deal with my own anxiety about speaking up about something that I couldn't quite point to. Like it was there and it was felt, but it wasn't something like, oh, when you use that word, this is how I felt. I couldn't even point to that. But I approached myself as well as the situation very tenderly and very compassionately. And I took the time I needed to write things very cleanly and clearly. And she received it. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you so much. Julie Johnson. Julie Johnson.
Yes, I'm loving hearing kind of old friends speak. So thank you all for sharing. And I just wanted to share, and I feel like this is following the other two who I think so highly of, that I found my energy around race shift in the conversations. And it shifted for me from trying to get it right to, I found I had less anxiety and was more curious both about my own conditioning and about what I could learn in the world. So I have shared with others that I was engaged just texting with a friend, and she's a Black woman who often will tease things out for me and point things out that I missed, or I'll ask her questions. And when I texted her something after Milagros, your workshop, she said, oh, are you still thinking about that? And I don't know if she said you're still hung up. And I said, I'm processing it. And it's so different now, because before I would have been in my head, anxious, reworking, gosh, did I say that? Did I offend? And instead, I just felt this calmness that was like, oh, I'm still working through this. And that's okay if that's okay with you. So thank you, Milagros. I loved how deeply and you said to us in the workshop, this work will take 30 days to really move through our bodies. So I've really been feeling it and appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. For those of you who are new with us, let me give you a little bit of background around this work. So this work is different from anti-racism work. I know that a lot of you have done race work who are here, and a lot of you may have done anti-racism work. Healing racism work is different from anti-racism. Healing racism work takes anti-racism and adds the healing process to it, which is a universal process. And I detail it in my new book. But there's a process that I have been putting people who have been through this program through this. It used to be 8 weeks, now it's 3 months, like it's 12, it's 12 weeks. So rather than putting people through this in 12 weeks, I've now designed it so that it's a 1-year process. And that's the racial sobriety that was referred to earlier. Racial sobriety is the second stage of this healing process. So people go through that 2-day process, which is intense. I think most people who are here will tell you, particularly day 1 is really intense, because it's about really feeling into a history that most of us have never heard of, we've not been told, and beginning to connect the dots so that we can really put a complete puzzle in front of us and realize what it is that we're dealing with. So in this workshop, we look at racism as a condition that was acquired over 500 years of conditioning. And the conditioning happened through colonization and enslavement, and it was set up as a caste system. And it's not like the Indian caste system. It was modeled after the Indian caste system, but it is a different caste system that was set up by the Spaniards. And that's the caste system that affects us in this part of the world, okay? Regardless, everyone has internalized what is in the system, because racism is institutional. In other words, it was turned into law. Let me even, before I go there, let me back up and just say that race is a myth. It is a myth. There are no genetic markers differentiating one human group from another human group. But so race is not real, okay? But racism is. So racism is the byproduct of the myth of race. So here we have something that's very real that came out of a myth. So I just want you to absorb that and just breathe that in for a minute, okay? Because that's huge. It's a myth that created something that has become real in society. And it is a global problem. It is a global problem, and it affects different groups of people in different ways. And so that's the first premise, that racism is a condition that was created by hundreds of years of conditioning. And the reason I approach it from that perspective is because we need it. When you take racism and you look at it as a condition, the first thing that happens is you discharge, because we have a charge with that thing. It's like, fight, flight, or paralysis for just about everybody when it comes to racism, right? But when you understand that it is a condition created by conditioning, then we start to look at it differently, and we start to break it down differently. And we look at what created the condition, right? We look at how has the condition affected individuals? How does that condition affect people, places, and things? And so it creates a completely different way of looking at racism. And it also allows us to see racism as a disease. In 1999, somebody wrote a paper for the AMA, the American Medical Association, talking about racism as as how racism follows the same pathology as alcoholism and drug disease. And when you break, and they pretty much broke it down, it pretty much follows the same pathology. People hang out with the same people. People don't, when you try to tell people you have an addiction, right? Like you have a disease, they're like, what are you talking about? No, I'm fine, And the fact that when I'm going to break it down and look, so we could look at it from the perspective of alcoholism, right? Especially for those who are new to this information. When you have someone who suffers from alcoholism in a family, or who is suffering from drug addiction in the family, some kind of addiction in the family, everybody in the family gets sick. And what people do is they take specific roles within that family in order to be able to survive being in the family, especially children who don't have any way out, nowhere to go, right? And so you have the person who has the addiction, and then you have all the people who are addicted around them who also need healing. And part of it is the realization that the people who are the members of the family who are being affected by that disease, they can't wait until that one person decides that they need healing, or that they are actually, like, they have enough of a disease, or they have enough of awareness of their disease to go seek healing. They can't wait for that. That's why we have Alcoholics Anonymous and we have Al-Anon. for the family, and we have Alateen for the teenagers because the children are afflicted and affected by the condition in the family. Why am I talking about it that way? Because racism is a problem for people of color. It is not the problem of people of color. People of color cannot heal racism. We have other things we need to heal from, like Stockholm syndrome, like our addiction to colorism, and all of the things that came out of the disease of racism. But racism is a white problem, and it needs to be solved by white people. The other pieces to that conditioning need to be solved by people of color. Ultimately, everybody needs healing. Everybody needs healing. And so this program, what it does is it quickens the process. And how it quickens the process is that in 2 days, you go through a process that allows you to not just understand the condition, the conditioning, and how you yourself play a role in that condition and in the conditioning and what that looks like for you. And so you begin to heal and you begin to transform. Because one of the reasons that we can't solve racism in our society is because we're very much an academic culture. And racism can't be solved in your head. If it could have been solved in your head with all the research that we have and all the numbers and all the statistics, we'd have solved it by now. You need to be able to take what comes into your head and allow it to take that 12-inch drop into your heart and another 12-inch drop into your gut so that you know it. This program takes between 30 and 45 days for you to process all the information that is in that program. And it's transformative. It always has been, and it always will be. And I structured it that way because I needed healing. And this is how I came to my own awareness of my own disease and what I needed to heal in me. And I realized we all need healing from this. We all need healing from it. So the program is structured so that you can absorb the information that is given to you in that day, but the processing of it takes a while because it is a lot of information and you feel it in your body, and we go in and we look at, well, where are you feeling that? What does that feel like? And all those kinds of things. Because the other thing that we don't do in our culture is we don't give ourselves the opportunity to feel. In fact, we try to run away, especially when it comes to racism, from feeling anything. And some people have been numbed out. And so you can't do the transformation work. And the other piece is if you don't understand what it is you're healing from, you're not going to heal. And you can't heal on a lie. You just can't heal on a lie. And for the most part, when it comes to racism, what we've received is a lot of misinformation. And those who are misinformed are bound to miscreate. You can't help it because you got to create from what you got, right? And if what you have is a lie, then that's where you're going to create from. So we need to be able to come together and talk about these things and hold each other in a sacred space of awareness and compassion. Because people don't know what they don't know. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know. There's a lot of stuff I still have to learn, right? Because I realized that this is lifelong learning and I'm still in process. But my commitment to me, to you, to the community at large, to the world, is to bring forth whatever it is that comes through me that I know can be healing and transformative, and share it with all of you so that you can begin that process. Because my goal is to leave the world a whole lot better than not just how I found it, but how it is right now, so that the next generation doesn't have to work as hard as I have at healing this stuff. That's my goal. And I need you to help me do that. I need you to help me do that. I need you to help spread the word. I need for you to speak about your experiences with this program. I need for you to tell your friends and your communities and bring me into your job and bring me into all these different places where people need this information. I just created a program for college students. I just, your alma mater may, you may want to bring me in to do these programs there. So I need your help in getting this information out into the world because it is transformative. it is transformative. And, you know, as much as I fought for years doing this work on the web, and then I was forced to do it on the web, I'm kind of glad that I was forced to do it on the web because it allows me to reach more people. So, you know, anyway, so I'll shut up now and let you guys talk some more. And I'd like to hear from more of you about, you know, why did you come to this program, and what did you get out of it? You know, what are some conversations you've had since then that sound like they would have been different had you not gone through that process, or anything that you want to share with us? And by the way, I can't see all of your hands because I only have access to a certain amount of you on the screen. Hey, Joya, you're next. So if you, so just open up your mic and speak up, and or send Jackie a note and just say, I have something to say, okay? So that we'll get to you. Okay, Joya, go for it.
Hi, Milagros. Hi, everybody. I didn't have my hand up earlier, but when I heard you calling my name, I put it up.
Oh, I see. Okay. I thought you did. I apologize.
No, that's good. It's good. So what brought me to this work? I mean, like some other people on the call, I was first introduced to you through Mama Gina when I participated in Mastery back in 2019 now, I guess. And I think there are so many places I've been through with you in the course of that time. But I think at the start, when I first met you or was first introduced to you, I think what you helped me to see was just how inauthentic I'd been being with myself about what race I, as a person of color coming from Indian background, you know this about me, but for everybody else on the call, I think on some level I'd been living in denial that racism somehow affected me. And so doing the program with Mama Gina was the first time I really came face to face with the fact that as women, we're not all equal. That there's hierarchy even amongst the group called woman. And that was a big shocker for me. Something that, like I said, I think I'd been in deep denial around. And so that was sort of the beginning of my journey with you. And then since then, you know, what happened to George Floyd last year was really when things got kicked into high gear for me. And I mean, learning about the doctrine of discovery, you know, so many things. Just you helping me to see the overall context of racism and the impact of it. And I think I could speak for a very long time on this with you, but to summarize where I'm at right now today is I think doing the work with you and participating in Race Demystified, what was it, a month ago?
Yeah.
Really helped me to see that one of the symptoms of the system of race is this tendency to other one another. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know this about me, just one question I've had has been, where do I fit in as a person of Indian background? Where do I fit in? I'm not Black, I'm not Indigenous, I'm not white. Am I allowed to have something to say about any of this? And you were the one who helped me see that needing to belong in a particular box is in itself part of the system of racism. And so, yeah, I've really come to this place of, okay, I don't want to engage in this conversation from the place of othering, because that's partially why we're here. We're still where we are. And so now I'm beginning to see that what's important is to have compassion for all of us. And that on some level, we do have all to heal. And so I guess where I'm at around all of it is just, how do I create that space for others where other people can also experience this healing that I too have been experiencing? I don't know if that answers your question. But.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Joya. Yeah. Yeah, it's that growth thing that happens. I remember, and I wrote about this in one of my books. There's a woman, a young woman, she was a lawyer, and she came to the course. And at the end of the course, I used to ask people, okay, so now you're in your late 90s and you're sitting in your rocking chair and you're surrounded by the children in your neighborhood. What are you going to say to them about how different racism is today than it was when you were little? And what did you do to make a difference? What did you take up so that you could speak to them from an honest place that said, here's what I did to change things, so that they too can know that they can change things. And this woman really took it to heart. And she said she was driving home after the second day of the workshop, and she stopped at a red light, and all of a sudden she found herself going, yeah, what am I going to do? Like, she's really, and she decided to create a course for her old, I think it was her college class. And it was a course on race, and she ended up getting like 16 students that semester. And the next semester she got 32 students, and the class just kept growing for her. And, you know, it's that what happens when we start healing is suddenly we have all this energy available to us that we didn't have before, because believe it or not, this stuff lives in your body and it's eating away it's just eating away at you, whether you're aware of it or not. So for instance, and we'll do this because so many of you are new to this work. So I'm going to have you put down whatever you have in your hands. I want you to take a nice deep breath and just blow it out. And if it feels comfortable to you, just go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to silently, do not say it out loud, just silently say to yourself this word 3 times. And what I want you to do is I want you to bring your conscious awareness to the inside of your body. Just sort of, you know, become aware of your heart and how your heart is beating and what's happening in your body. Just let yourself drop in and be aware of your body for a minute. And then simply say to yourself, as you notice your body, silently, the word racism. Say that silently to yourself again. Racism. And one more time. Racism. Take a nice deep breath. Just notice your body. Take a nice deep breath and blow it out. And now say to yourself, silently again, as you notice the inside of your body, say to yourself, peace. 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 And see if you notice a difference with how your body reacts from the word racism to the word peace. And I want you to open up your microphones, and I want to hear from some of you, not those of you who have been in my courses, but those of you who are new here today. I'd like to know if you felt the difference between the word peace and the word racism, and how they felt different in your body. Avina Ward.
Hi, Milagros. This is actually Coco Corbett, her daughter. We're here together.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
And hi, Joya. And Joya invited us, so I was happy to hear her
lovely.
voice. So I noticed when I said racism, there was kind of this like a really thick, sludgy waterfall of tumbling from my chest to my solar plexus and then down into my pelvis, like a clunky unfolding. And I was surprised the first time. And then I was really surprised when I felt it the same way each time, because I haven't felt that before. I think I've lived a lot in the, I can't remember who shared earlier, but a lot in the like doing it right, and a lot more fear and anxiety around racism and my draw to doing anti-racism work, which I get is different from what you're offering. And so that was a new experience for me. And when I said peace, I didn't notice, well, I noticed a lack of anything. It was just still.
Yeah.
And that's what I noticed.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. That's great. Who else? Who else felt a difference? You'll have to open your mic because, as I said, I don't have access, to either side of, and I can only see a few of you in front of me. So just open up your mic and speak up. If you could feel the difference between, if you're new to us and you could feel the difference between racism and peace.
Sure, I'll take it. I'm
Great.
Maria. I'm Maria Troyani Howard from Siler City, North Carolina. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So with the word racism, I felt a tightening in my throat chakra. And as it went on to the second and third, I almost felt like I couldn't breathe. So that's how I felt with that. And with the word peace, I still felt that, but I felt it sort of dissipating a little bit. So I felt that dissipating, and I felt a sense of calm start to just come into my being. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Maria. Keep doing the word peace. Just keep doing that so that, and that goes for the rest of you who are still feeling it. Just keep, just keep focusing on peace. And there's a reason I have you do that exercise there are a lot of reasons I have you do that exercise, but I'll talk about it in a minute. Who else could feel the difference between racism and peace? And now we'll just open it up to even those of you who have had this experience before.
I could say something. I'm new to your work, learning about you through Meenal. And I noticed with the word racism, real tightening in my intestinal area. And it felt like fear.
Yeah.
And with the word peace, I felt a relaxing in my heart area, kind of a warmth. So,
thank you, Mary. Betsy, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Hi.
Milagros. Betsy St. Ange from Cambridge here. Julie invited me.
Oh,
she speaks movingly and resonantly of this work, and in many ways it's a path I've been on, never quite feeling like anti-racism makes sense to me, and yet healing does. I am a white woman. So very moved just by what you shared already. So when you asked us to do that experience of sitting with the word racism, I was already very much feeling sorrow and grief and strong sensations in my heart. And I also could really feel my heart beating. So like the nervous system of fear and anger and fight and flight. And then peace, there was definitely a calming, and there was kind of a fragile sense of sort of an opening and hope, like that this is possible to heal from, in fact. Very tentative, very fragile, but present nonetheless.
Thank you so much, Betsy. Yeah. The reality is the body makes a chemistry for everything, whether we're aware of it or not. Every blink of an eye, every raising of your hand, everything. And so we have, and we're all connected to each other through our DNA, whether we like it or not. And that connection is powerful. That connection, comes through the generations. And very often we think that what hurts someone else doesn't impact us. And the reality is that that's really not true. If your ancestors experienced trauma up to 5, 6 generations ago, you still have that trauma in you. And we know this now from research, right? And so it's so important for us to be aware of the fact that we can't just ignore another person's pain or another group's pain, because ultimately it is our pain. That pain belongs to all of us. So what we want to do is we want to awaken, be aware, and begin to create a world of equity, a world that we all are proud of, a world where we feel connected to one another, because ultimately we are one human family. And the reality is that we kind of live as one human family. You know, all the functions and dysfunctions that apply to us as individual biological families, they apply to us as groups, and they apply to us as countries, and they apply to us as a globe, right? Like, you know, there's the cousins over there, nobody ever talks about them because they're weird. There's, oh, these are my favorite cousins. You know, like we do that in our families, right? But we also do that, so we do it in the micro, but we do it in the macro as well. Yeah. So Joya, hang in there. Let me see if there's someone else who has a comment or because I take it your hand is up. Someone else have something to say or want to ask a question or make a comment. And Jacqueline, I want to check with you to see if you have anyone.
Joya and Christine.
You said you have Joya and Christine?
And Christine, yes.
Okay, Joya, hang in there, because I know, you know, I want to be able to give as many people an opportunity to speak as I can. So if you'll hang in there, Joya, let's call on some other folks first. Okay, go for it. Is that Christine?
Christine.
Okay, go for it, Christine.
Well, I think it might be me. It's Kristen.
Kristen, okay.
Is that, anyways, this is my first time. I followed you on different social media, Milagros, but this is my first time. And when I did the exercise, I felt so confused because I've just gotten so many mixed messages since I was a little girl. I grew up in rural Illinois, and there weren't many people of color. It was a very homogenous environment. And then I moved to the big city, and my first friend at my school was a little girl, and my mom, it was the only Black girl that lived in the town. And she never said anything to me about it. She was really good about supporting, and I think she was educated. She was somewhat sophisticated about this. But the little girl left the town very abruptly, and she left because of racial violence for her. And I just was so confused. I just didn't understand the whole thing. The whole episode left me, I guess, somewhat traumatized, because that was the girl I most liked. And she was just left and never said goodbye to me. And so when I did that exercise, I just felt sad, and I felt really confused. Like, I'm going to do this wrong. You know, I somehow that relationship in a way failed. And I'm just afraid I'm going to do it wrong again. You know, when you're little, you don't understand, did I do it wrong or what happened? And so I felt fear.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you feel with peace?
I just felt happy. You know, I felt like when we were walking home, she lived near me, the little girl, and we were walking home, and we just so happy, and like little girls that are 8 years old talking. I felt that kind of joy of, we were both sort of outsiders. I'd come from a small little farm town to this big city. And I guess that's maybe what brought us together. And then we found we belonged together. And I felt that connection, and just, I guess it's like a love and peace when I did the exercise.
Yeah. So, Kristen, it sounds like you have unresolved grief around that relationship. Because it sounds like that's what came up in your heart at first when you first thought of racism. And of all the racism things, and I mean, think of all the stuff that's happened recently, like none of that came to mind. You went right to the grief. And you went to the grief of your childhood, a grief of broken relationships. And now you're afraid of breaking more relationships when you try to do anything that's race related. And, so those are the things that we look at when we are doing this work. It's how we're carrying internalized grief around this stuff that people aren't even aware of. And so often what happens is when someone wants to have a conversation on race, the fight, flight, and paralysis that comes up, particularly for whites, has a lot to do with grief, unresolved grief. And that unresolved grief shows up in the form of fear. And some of that fear is the stuff that people learn from their family, from their circle of influence, from the media and everywhere else, wherever your circle of influence took you. And so one of the things that we address is grief, and looking at grief. It's such an important stage in the healing process and how that shows up differently for everybody. So thank you for sharing that story, Kristen. Really appreciate it. Joya.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Milagros. This is Tom, Joya's husband.
Oh, hey, Tom. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I sort of caught a few snippets of your work with Joya since she's become engaged and so on. And this little exercise here, actually, it's funny, I'm all emotional right now.
Yeah. You know what? You need to allow that emotion. That's really important. And you hold your thought for 1 second. I just want to address that for a minute. Any of the men who are on this call, if you get emotional, you need to allow that. We live in a culture that does not allow men to be vulnerable in terms of their emotions. And as a result of carrying that grief then shows up in different ways. So please, at least when you do work with me, if tears come up, I need for you to release those tears. There's no shame in that. All it means is that you just tapped into something that's been sitting inside of you that has not been resolved within you. That's all that it means. So we welcome your tears. Okay, so just want to say that. So go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to address that.
No, that's great. In doing the exercise, in saying the word racism, my chest definitely tightened up around my heart and everything. And I could feel or created anger around the word.
Yeah.
And then when we moved on to peace, it definitely released and the freedom of breathing was back. And I think, I get hung up on, I've even mentioned to my supervisor, I'm not really that fond of being a white man in today's world. And he just says, yeah, it comes with a lot of stuff. And it's like, that's your answer. I guess it's a recognition to it for sure. But yeah, so that's kind of what showed up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here with us. Here's the thing. This racism stuff affects everybody and affects them in different ways. And there's a lot of social anger with white men right now. And we saw it in the insurrection that just happened, right? And so there's this internalized stuff, this unresolved grief, anger, pain, frustration. And especially right now, because the world is changing. And the old world of white male rule, father knows best kind of world is fading away. And no one is addressing the grief that comes with loss around that. And so white men are going through some major stuff right now. And they themselves aren't even addressing it because we created a culture that makes it bad for them to address that stuff. in a healthy way that would allow them to really move through it, as opposed to having it show up in explosive and different ways. So, you know, I think one of the most important things for us to be aware of is that we are responsible for the whole society, all of us, because we co-created together. And if we're just pointing fingers and it's this person's doing it or this group is doing it, and that, you know, like, we need to work collectively and lovingly support each other through the awareness of our conditioning that has led to these conditions. Everybody, I don't care who your family is or what they look like, everybody's been traumatized. Everybody, at one point or another. They either have been through war, and just remember, trauma gets passed on from one generation to another through epigenetics for up to 6 generations. God knows how much longer. We don't even know, but we know at least 6 generations, right? And so when you start to break it down and start to understand that everyone has been traumatized in one form or another, what the healing, the reason I put people through that healing process is because what that healing process does is, you know, what we're addressing race, but all this other stuff comes up. It just bubbles right up, and you begin to see the patterns in your family. You begin to see the patterns in your society. You see the patterns at your job. You begin to see, and the reason you want to see that stuff is because, one, you need to have an awareness that while you're healing, you're going to be healing in a toxic environment, okay? Because you can't make other people heal. They will come to the process when they're ready. All you can do is plant seeds by talking to people about, here's what I'm learning, and I didn't know about this, and did you know about that? You know, all those kinds of things, right? But you can't make them heal. But you cannot wait for them to heal for you to take responsibility for your own healing. You just can't do that. And what happens when you start to heal is that suddenly you're able to be in the space with the disease. That, and I'm not saying that because you're not supposed to do something about it. We're going to address that in a minute. But you're able to be in the space with the disease vibrating at a completely different frequency. Because now you own your power. But if your power is hidden behind privilege, and it's hidden behind the conditioning, and it's hidden behind, you don't have access to it. So that's why you get thrown when people want to talk about race. Because you, at that moment, in a way, feel powerless. So the reason we do healing work, and I always joke that even the best anti-racists at some point they're gonna need healing. Okay, because healing is a different process. We need the anti-racism work because we need the information to understand, you know, the systemic and the institutional, blah, 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 right? Like, we need that because it's institutional, systemic, internalized, and interpersonal, right? But healing requires that we do something completely different with our mind, body, spirit, and emotions. And as a result of that, what happens is when you start to get into your power, you're able to be in it, but not of it. You're able to stand in your power and not get thrown off kilter every time somebody blows the wind this way or blows the wind that way. You're able to just stand. And the reason that is so important is because when you're able to stand in your power with awakened consciousness, not in denial of the truth of what is happening, but with the awareness of what is happening, you literally have the power to change the people in your life without ever even saying a word. Because what happens is you begin to literally vibrate at a different frequency. And that frequency of peace that I just had you do with that exercise, that lives in everybody. Peace isn't something that's over there, or you got to work for, or you got to travel to the Himalayas to get. That's not what peace is. That's about something else, okay? Peace, real peace, is always available. Peace is a constant. That doesn't mean that we don't do things to disturb the peace. Like I had you disturb the peace when I had you say the word racism, right? As simple as that. You're not engaged in an issue right now. You're just simply saying the word. And then I had you say the word peace. The reason I have you do that exercise is because if you get nothing out of this, here's what I want you to know. You have the power to change your state of consciousness at any given moment in time, just like that. You have the power to do that. No one else can do that for you. This, you make me happy. You like, no, forget it. You can't be waiting for people to make you anything. Besides, they can't. They don't have the, seriously, you want to give anybody that kind of power? Okay, you don't want to do that. You need to become aware of the fact that you have access to different states of consciousness, and that different state of consciousness affects your body. You just had an experience of that. And what affects your body literally affects your vibrational frequency, and which obviously affects your electromagnetic field, which goes out between 3 and 30 feet beyond your body. So the more you stand in your power, the more you know who you are, the more you understand that, oh yeah, I've been conditioned, but that doesn't mean I can't be deconditioned, right? Like that's the bad news and the good news, right? And so as you learn who you really are, and you learn to stand in your power without that conditioning, who you become is extraordinary. And no one has to tell you to do the right thing, because you'll know what the right thing is. Because you will have access to your inner core and your inner power. That's why we heal. We heal so that when we go out into the world, we're not adding to the poison. That's why we heal. So questions, comments, anything you want to know. Jackie, I have like no idea what time it is. So, oh, goody, we have some time. Whew. Okay. And Jackie, I just want to say that Granny's here. Every time I see 111, I'm like, oh, my mother's around.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, okay. So questions, comments, feelings, things that you felt, thank you all so much for those of you who have been sharing, because how we learn is by sharing these experiences with each other. And we don't always get the opportunity to do that in community. Okay, so questions, comments, thoughts. Those of you who have been through the program, continue to share with us any interesting conversations you've had since, or thoughts. You know what I want to know, for those of you who've been through the program, how are you hearing the news now? Like, how are you hearing things in the news? Do they sound the same as they did before, or are you hearing things with new ears? I want to know that about from you guys who have been through the program.
Brian raised his hand.
Go for it, Brian.
Hello, this is Brian Landers. Meenal invited me, my long and dear friend Meenal invited me to participate. And you've given me a lot to think about. So I'll just touch on a few things. One, the racism peace experiment, if you will, anger, just pure anger, tension, adrenaline, tightness of the body, that fight reaction. And Meenal knows me, I'm a very calm man, but you can't grow up Black in this country and not have experienced racism, either overtly, directly, physically, or more subtly. And I've experienced all of the above. So the anger is perfectly understandable and expected. Peace, of course, lowered the temperature on all of that, but it's a condition of that anger that is just there. Being an educated Black man, educated, I'm putting that in quotes, traditional European prep school education, I find myself, so this is kind of responding to your where are we now kind of question. I find myself listening to the news, reading things, 1619 Project, And I find I have a combination of anger, again, disappointment. I'm an educated man, but I didn't know about Tulsa. Yeah. I was not aware of so many things that America doesn't want us to know about or talk about, or therefore experience, heal, address, and move through. So I find that this last year has been an awakening in me that I am searching for. How do I want to deal with these things? Because I don't want to be an angry Black man. Lord have mercy, right? Can't just refuse to live my life as an angry Black man. But there's so much that I also realize I have just been either ignoring or unaware of that I want to deal with, because I want to live within my power as a Black man, and be that beacon of light, hope, etc., that can engage others. And I loved what you said in closing. I loved what you said, and I know this to be true, that race is a myth, but racism is real. Absolutely. So thank you for putting these 2 hours together. It's truly an amazing experience. I will have a lot to digest in the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, speaking of Tulsa, so I started teaching the participants of Race Demystified about Tulsa in 2001. And how that started was I can't mention their name, but there's an organization that hired me to train 1,000 of their leaders. This was back in 2001. It was in 2001, 2003 or something like that. And in that process, what I offered to them was, I can train your people, but it would be a much richer experience if you had your employees invite the community to come and have this experience with you. And you, the company, paid for the community to have the experience. So they would be paying for their employees, but for every employee that they had come in, they would have a member of the community come for free. And they agreed to do it. So we had this African-American gentleman who came to the workshop. And he said to me, did you know about Tulsa? And I said, yes, I do. He said, have you seen the reenactment, the documentary? I was like, there's a documentary, oh my God, So he goes, I'll bring it tomorrow. And I said, well, I don't want to interrupt the flow of the program that we already have going. It was the 2-day. And he said, what time do you get in here? And the program started at 9. He said, I'm usually in here like 7:30, just prepping, making sure all the technology and stuff works. He goes, okay, I'll be here at 7:30. He came in at 7:30 and he brought the video, and we put it, it's a VHS. I still have it. We put it in. And he and I started watching it. So I'm setting stuff up, and then, I'm riveted. So now I'm sitting down watching this thing. And I haven't noticed that all the participants have started coming in. And I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, it's almost time. And I turned around and just about everybody was there, and everybody was sitting there with like their mouths hanging open, watching the reenactment of the burning of Tulsa. From that day on, that, pieces of that film became part of my 2-day program, because I realized that no one in that room knew about the burning of Tulsa. But what was really powerful are the 2 things that happened that day. So this African-American gentleman who had come into the seminar, he was sitting there, he was 67 years old, he said. And when we were done and we started going around the room, having everyone, share how you feel, because a lot of this is, you've got to go into the feeling, right? And he began to cry. And he said he remembered when Emmett Till was killed. And a lot of you may or may not know about Emmett Till, but he was a young man who lived in Chicago, and his mother sent him to the South to spend time with family. And the story is he whistled at a white woman and they lynched him. Now, there are two forms of lynchings. There's a regular lynching, which is the public spectacle where everybody in the town shows up. And then there's something called a dry lynch. And a dry lynching is when they take you, they torture you, and they throw your body away somewhere. So they threw him in the water, the body came bobbing back up. And that's how they found Emmett Till. And his mother was incredibly brave because he was tortured and beaten beyond recognition. And she decided to have an open casket because she wanted the world to see what had been done to her son. He was a 14, 15-year-old boy. And it was all over Jet magazine at the time. And so, so everybody got to see Emmett Till. And in fact, a lot of the civil rights movement has been linked to this brave woman allowing an open casket for her son, for the lynching of, for her son to be seen, as part of the, one of the things that really sparked what we know as the civil rights movement. So this man was sitting there. He said he remembers looking at the pictures in Jet magazine. And he said he suddenly realized just now in that moment when we were in the healing, in the seminar, he said, I just realized that I spent my entire life never feeling safe. He said the police wouldn't keep him safe. His parents couldn't keep him safe. And he realized that he literally lived his life without sanctuary, just knowing that he wasn't safe anywhere. And he got in touch with that in that seminar at that moment. So that's what happened with him. So I'm listening to him, and there was a segment in the documentary where there's an African-American man who is very well dressed, and he's got his hat on, and he's got a trunk in the back, bringing it down the stoops. And there's a photograph of him, and it's a famous photograph, and some of you may have seen it. And I lost it. And it's interesting because I rarely co-facilitate with anyone. And I had asked a friend of mine from Massachusetts to come and co-facilitate that seminar with me. And I looked at him and I said, I need to go to the ladies' room. I need for you to take over. I went in the ladies' room and I just sobbed. Because I realized in that moment that I had spent a lifetime never feeling safe and not quite understanding what it was. In that moment, I got in touch with that in my own heart. So that's why I do healing racism work, because we all need healing from this 500-year-old conditioning that has caused the condition of racism to live amongst us, like, just kind of run the show. The other thing I want to say is that when people get good information, they make good decisions. I was working on a project called Congressional Conversations on Race, where it was funded by Kellogg, and it was for 3 years. We worked with 8 members of Congress, and they got to invite whoever they wanted to the seminars and things that we did with them. And we were doing one in DC, and this Republican from Alabama stood up and he said, I had no idea how some of the laws that we had made were hurting African-American families. And I want to do something about that. And I want you, and he invited members from his side of the aisle and invited members from the other side of the aisle to form a committee with him. I mean, right there and then, he decided and he made it happen. And then, you do your work, you leave, right? Like, I hadn't even thought about that. But a couple of years later, the founder of one of the organizations that invited me to help facilitate and create this program invited me because he was about to retire, and there was a new CEO of his company. He wanted me to to get to know this person and establish a relationship. And the person asked me, why do you do this work? Because you've been doing it for so long. And I told her that story about that Republican from Alabama. And she said to me, you know, I was chief of staff for so-and-so who was on that committee. They were when she left, they were turning some of that stuff into law. You never know whose life you're going to touch. Years ago, I did this seminar for one person, the whole 2 days, because that one person showed up. And I didn't know whose heart that person was going to touch when they left that seminar. So rather than canceling the seminar, I did the whole seminar for that one person. I love this work. I'm passionate about it. I've seen the difference it makes in people's lives. And I want to continue to do it. But I need your help getting the word out. I need your help to help me get more people in the space to have this experience, because it changes lives and it makes people do the right thing, not because we force them, but because they're able to get access to their heart that allows them to do the right thing. Human beings are wired for love and connection. That's who we are. We are extraordinary. But we have some stuff that's been put in the way of that extraordinary self showing up, not just for ourselves, but for the rest of the world. Questions, comments, thoughts, anything that's coming up for you in this moment, and anything you want to say or you want to share.
Yes, Milagros, this is Maria, again from Siler City, North Carolina. I've been touched over the course of this last hour and a half. I have tears coming to my eyes. I'm grateful to my friend and NIA teacher, Kate Finlayson, who recently took your Race Demystified seminar. And ever since the incident with George Floyd last year, I've been looking into things, and I've taken a local racial equity class.
Good.
And I am 100% Italian. And grandparents from both sides came to this country in the early 1900s. And our family stories have just been a little discrimination here and there. And since the incident with George Floyd, I've been looking more and doing some more research. And I am finding the depth, and I'm going to call it racism, against just a generation ago, my family here in this country. And I was not aware of it. The things that I didn't know that I didn't know. I just give this one little story on my high school transcript. It says race, Italian. Now, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm Italian. I'm proud of that. And in this last year, did it only come to me that no, that didn't mean proud to other people. That was truly a racist label that was put upon me as Italian. And, I didn't feel sort of qualified to fall under the category of having racism inflicted upon my family, because we are considered white now. But I see the depth now of being Italian.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, Maria, because that is such an important part of the story. So when we do the race healing seminar, we talk about all those things. Like, for instance, a lot of people don't realize that when the Italians first started to arrive in this country, and when the Irish first started to arrive in big numbers in this country, how they were discriminated against. And I have a very good friend whose grandmother, she's a picture of her grandmother, when she came off of Ellis Island and went into Manhattan, and she's standing in front of a store and she's having her picture taken. And so my friend says to her, Grandma, what's that behind you? Says Nina. Is that, she's a kid. She's like, is that like Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria? Because, they sailed out of Italy, right? And she said, oh no, honey, that's no Italian need apply. It also meant no Irish need apply. See, what people don't understand is whiteness is not just a skin color. It is a privilege bestowed upon. There are very dark-skinned people who come from various parts of the country whose passport would be, I don't know if they're still doing it, but used to be stamped Caucasian because of where they came from. And also because they had straight hair, which we now know is one of the leftover traits from Neanderthalism. But, it's like all of these things that, again, we don't know what we don't know, right? But every group that's come to this country has had, the whites that came from various parts of Europe, you had to earn your whiteness. Wasn't exactly given to you. And one of the ways that people earned their whiteness was they had to change their names. They had to give up their religion. If they were Jewish, a lot of Jewish people gave up their religion and changed their names. You had to give up your language because it was a melting pot. If you look back in the record in the early 1900s, when there were a lot of people coming into Ellis Island, there were like 48 different classifications of race. So again, it's this rich history, and that's the stuff that you learn in this 2-day program. It's to understand not just your own history, but the history of the various people who have come to this country. Because it's important to understand that for the most part, people who came to this country didn't come here because, it was a picnic over there and, they just got on the Caribbean cruise to just cruise over the Atlantic, It wasn't like that. People were coming back then for the same reason that they're coming now. And I don't care if your family came over on the Mayflower or if they came over on some other ship, right? And I'm not talking about the enslaved people because that's different. Those people were kidnapped, okay? I'm talking about white people who came to this country, came here for the same reason that people are coming across the border, the Mexican border right now. And that is because there's no picnic over there. People don't just leave the country that they're born into unless something is wrong. And people are migrating for the same reasons now that they migrated back then. Famine, food insecurity, housing insecurity, and wars. Those are the same reason that people left Europe. Europe back then was full of disease. It was, food was scarce because you only had 3 months to grow their food. A lot of whites were enslaved. The first slaves in America were white people. Like nobody seems to know that. They were the first enslaved people in this country were white. Native Americans were enslaved, and then they turn around and they enslaved Africans. Like this history is rich, but once you understand it and you begin to understand the conditions that created the condition we're living under that made us all be conditioned, right? Then you can dismantle that stuff and create something new. This is about remembering the human family, bringing back the members of the human family, because we have thrown people away, So we need to come together to do this work. Shoshana.
Thank you, Milagros. So I'm sitting here, I'm Jewish, and I'm thinking about Israel right now and what's going on there. And what I know absolutely is that this is trauma being acted out. 100%. And there's so much sadness in me that that we're reenacting, that Jewish people in Israel are reenacting what has occurred to them. And it's so sad. It's just tragic. It's absolutely tragic.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Shoshana. The thing is that we don't teach people their history. And because we don't teach people their history, people just keep recreating it over and over and over again. And you have to remember who's recreating this stuff. It's traumatized people. Traumatized people traumatize others. That's just what they do. If there's been no healing, and for the most part, we go to war and, we barely do healing work on the trauma that men bring back from the war, not to mention that now their children are traumatized. The wife that they come back to is trauma. Like everybody gets traumatized, and any children they have after they've been to war are also traumatized And we know that now through epigenetics. So being trauma informed is extremely important to doing this work, to understanding, what it is that's happening with people, and to see, once you get it, you see history repeating itself over and over and over again. And once you do that, then you start to look at ways of how to stop it. We need to stop it so that other generations can have a little bit more of themselves and more and more. Thank you so much for sharing that. Other comments or questions? Let me just check. I just want to see. We have a little bit of time. So here's what I'm going to say. Those of you who are on this call, if you would like to I'm going to do another 2-day, because I keep getting asked by people, when are you going to do another one? I was going to do it in the fall. And I was like, you know what? Let me just do one during the summer, because there's something else that I'm planning. And this would give you the opportunity to do that. So those of you who are on this call, if you would like to do the 2-day program in August, there's a 50% discount for those people who are on this call. And we have a list, right, of people who who are on this call or signed up to be on this call, because I know sometimes people can't make it. We had like 139 or 29 or 130 people or something who signed up, and a lot of them aren't here. It's Saturday. It's gorgeous in a lot of places today, so I totally get it. But I want them to also, when they listen to this, to have access to this. That's going to be available for the next 24 hours. And here's how it works. If you can pay for the whole thing, you just pay for the whole thing, and that's fine, for the whole 50%. If you need to make payments for the program, then you just need to let us know. I was at the program and I would like to sign up, but I need to make payments, and we'll work with you to make that happen. Okay, so there's that. Those of you who have already been through the race healing program, I created a program for you. And this is a program that I started soon after I did the first race demystified program, the first 2-day program back in 2001. And back then I did it daily. Like, people would come over and there'd be an assignment, they do the assignment, and then we go through the entire system of the healing process. The healing process has grown, okay? And so those of you who have been through the program, there is a follow-up program. And the follow-up program, I was trying to decide if I was going to do it as a weekly program or a monthly program. I decided on a monthly program because, I don't want people to get burnt out, right? So if we meet once a month for 12 months, and I'm going to walk you through the healing process, the entire healing process, one stage at a time. And what people who have done this part of the program find, it's so transformative. And it isn't just around race. It's around other areas in your life, because you first of all begin to speak the language of healing. You understand the language of healing, and you're able to take that process and apply it to other areas of your life that may need healing, like your organization or your family or your community. And so, because it's a universal program, and you'll see it once you go through it. So that program is available, but it's only available for the people who have already been through the 2-day program. Excuse me. And that program is going to start on September 1st. That program starts on September 1st. And I think Jacqueline put in the link, both of the 2-day, which you're going to get, there's a discount code. And Joseph, I don't know how the discount code thing works. So if you could give us some guidance around that, because you're going to get 50% off the regular price of the program. The regular price of the program is $997, and you're going to get 50% off of the 2-day program if you're on this call. Okay, so that's the first thing. Those of you who have already been through the Race Demystified program and want to go deeper, there is the program that starts in September. Those of you who sign up today will get 50% off of that. I'm sorry, that program is not discounted. I apologize. You get 50% off the other program, but this program is not discounted. But you can make payments, so you can pay one. You can make a payment a month for that program. So those are two programs that I highly recommend for those of you who are ready to do some of this healing work, because I think until we start to do that healing work, you don't even realize how much of this stuff, how much of your energy is taken up by this stuff. And I'm not just talking about the oxygen that's taken up by the news and all the horrible stuff that happens. I'm talking about the stuff that lives inside of you, because it's collective trauma. So, so those are two ways. There's the August program, Race Demystified, and I'm doing one that starts at 9 o'clock in the morning during the week. So your company, if your company, you can ask your company if they will pay for you to go if you want to do that. Or you can, the one on the weekend starts at 12 so that the people in California can join at their 9 o'clock. So those are two ways that you can attend. And then there's the other program is the one that is, that's the 12-month program where we meet once a month for an hour and a half. I coach you through. There are assignments with that one. They're not big elaborate assignments, but there are assignments with that program. You will also be paired with another person in the group so that for the whole year, you go through that process with a partner that is also going through the same process, because there'll be stuff that'll come up for you during, between the times that we get together as a group, that you'll want someone to walk that path with you. So we'll pair you up, and there's also going to be a Facebook page where you'll be able to connect with people and talk about what's happening with you, how you're feeling, what's going on with you as you go through that process. But that process is an entire year. It starts September 1st of 2021, and then it ends on September 7th of 2022. So, so lots of things for you to think about. And if you have questions, now's the time to ask. You can ask questions about the program, or you can ask me questions about anything while I'm here. And for those of you who know me and who have been walking this path with me, I will not be doing the Lunch and Learn programs. I was doing a program every Monday, which I love doing, but I don't have time. And right now I have to put together a book tour. Oh yeah, for those of you who want me to do, once my book comes out, to either come to your area to do a book signing, set up at a bookshop or something like that, or if you want me to do some book signings at your organization or anything like that, just please send us an email at info@milagrosfellows.com to let us know. But so I'm not going to be doing the once a week program, which they really miss. But my time is that it's such that I won't be able to do it, and especially once the book comes out, I'm going to be really busy with that stuff. So, all right, so that's that. Questions, comments, anything that you want to say, or that's in your heart, in your mind, or any questions about the upcoming programs. Oh yeah, the program on race and money. Oh, that is a really good program. And it'll be a really interesting program for a lot of folks to look at race from that perspective, because it's a lot of the money stuff is also part of the conditioning. And so, so it's important for us to look at that. So, all right, questions, comments. What would you like to say? Any thoughts? I hear breathing out there.
Milagros, there is one question. If sorry, I'm just having a little problem here. From Jennifer, if she completes the Race Demystified program in August, can she do the year-long program?
Yes, thank you for asking. That's a great question. The reason that I'm not starting that program now is because I want to give the folks who sign up in August the opportunity to also sign up for the year program. So that's why I'm starting it in September. Otherwise, I would be starting it right now. But I want to give the folks who attend in September the opportunity to sign up, and so everybody will go through it together. Thank you for asking. Great question. Other questions or comments or anything you want to say about today and about the town hall, or anything that's in your heart?
Oh, Milagros, there are questions about the pricing of the programs. So the 2-day program.
The 2-day, yeah. Oh, yeah. So the 2-day is $9.90.
The year-long program.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, Jackie. What was that?
It's just
the difference between those two programs. Is that what it is? Oh, okay. Yeah. So the 2-day program is where you get the foundation and the context to be able to walk through the year-long program. Does that make sense? So I'm not doing that year-long program with anyone who hasn't been through the 2-day program, because you're not going to have the foundation. The thing about the 2-day program is that the information that's shared in that program is what allows you to then take the information that will be shared on a monthly basis in the year program and really apply it to your life.
And Milagros, there's also another question regarding the cost of the 12-month program, because there's a price of $97, which is the monthly installment option, if that's correct. And then the $997 is the one-time payment.
Correct. Yeah. So if you're making a one-time payment for that, for the year-long program, is $997. If you need to make monthly payments, the monthly payments are $97. So I hope that answers that question. Did you have any other questions, Jacqueline, or does anyone else have any other questions?
And then there was a question regarding the pricing for the 2-day program with the 50% off.
Yeah. So the 2-day program is $997, and you get, I think it's like $497 you pay if you sign up today. There is going to be an early bird special, and that is 30% off. So today you get 50% off. After today, you get 30% off. So you're still going to get a discount. You get 30% off for a while. I don't remember what the dates are for the early bird, but you get 30% off later on. If you want to take advantage of the 50% off, and you want to and you can't pay for the whole thing today, you can just pay a deposit, and you'll still be able to get that special, because this is a one-time. This is only for the people who are on this call and people who signed up for this call, because some of them signed up and couldn't make it. But they'll be watching the video. So those of you who signed up, we have you. You're on a list. Okay, you're on a list, and so if you're on that list as somebody who signed up, you still will get that 50% off price. But you have to do it the video will be out sometime today. So you have to do it within the next 24 hours to get that 50% off. After that, you can get 30% off for a couple of weeks or something like that. And then after that, it goes to the full regular price.
And Milagros, another question regarding the time slot for the 12-month program.
Okay. So those are going to be an hour and a half once a month with me, where I will be, there'll be some teaching and training, but I will also be coaching you through the process. There'll be discussions, and we're also going to have breakout rooms and things like that. And in the meantime, you're going to have your partner that you can share information with. Anything else, Jackie?
Just the time, like, I guess the time of day people are trying because it's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sure. It's from 7 to 8:30 on a Wednesday. It's always going to be on Wednesday, and it's from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
I know that, that sometimes programs are like at 8 to 9:30. I was thinking for some folks that might be a little bit late. So 7 to 8:30 is how we have it set up right now.
And that's 7 to Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard, yeah. It's New York time, folks. I'm in the DC area. So yeah. Any other questions, comments? Has this been helpful to some of you? Just getting some basic information about racism, how it works, what it's like. Remember that it's institutional, systemic, internalized, and interpersonal. And it's in the interpersonal that we get into a lot of trouble with each other, right? But it's because we've absorbed it, simply because it's been institutionalized and there are systems that have been set up to uphold those institutions. So, so we need to work at it at all levels. But the main thing is for you to work on it within yourself. Because you can't make other people anything, but you need to feel that wholeness and that joy and that connection to other human beings that comes from understanding and deconditioning yourself around this stuff. Any other questions, comments?
This is Brian. Excuse me. I'm sorry, you probably touched on this, but I just didn't absorb it. If I just want to do the 2-day program, what do I expect to get out of it in addition to a foundation for the 1-year program? I don't know if I'm ready to commit to a year. So what are the benefits I get from the 2-day program?
Yeah, why don't we have some of the people who have been to the 2-day program answer that? Who wants to get a stab at that? What did it mean to you? Because none of these folks who have been through that 2-day program have been through the 1-year program, Brian. But so let me, I'm going to say a couple of things. One of them is you could get a lot of the details by going to the website. And I think, I don't know if we gave people a website a little bit. It's very easy. It's milagrosphillips.com. And in there, you're going to see something that says 2-day immersion at the top where all the links are. And just click on that and it'll give you tons of information, including testimonials and things like that. And those testimonials are coming from people who have not been through the 1-year program, because I wasn't offering it. I haven't offered it in years. I think the last time was 2009 was the last time that I offered the follow-through program. So it's been a while. The reason I decided to do this because I realized that I believe people are finally ready for that information now and to really dig deep. So so who would like to have a stab at what did you get out of that 2-day program? Corey.
Hi, Milagros. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I got a wonderful global perspective on the problem of racism that was really helpful for me. And in particular, one of the things I really adored about this program was just the depth and the quality of the conversations with all of us as a group, meaning sitting in the virtual room, if you will, with people from all different backgrounds, sharing how different things landed with them, depending on their race and background, and being able to have candid yet compassionate conversations with people from so many different backgrounds. And I find that kind of having that safe space to have those kind of conversations is something that I personally found very beneficial, and it enriched my knowledge beyond just what I can read in the books that so many of us are reading and such. So those were some hugely valuable components for me. It was a tremendous program for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Corey. I think Julie McVeigh, I think, just wrote something and I only got a glimpse of it. So Julie, would you like to open up your mic and tell us what you wrote? You're muted. Why is Julie muted? I think Julie spoke before. So let's see. Jackie, do you know?
I think I'm unmuted now.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, and I would just reiterate and Corey's comment of how much this work is really interactive. Yes, it's personal work, but it also is so much about being in relationship with one another. So I find it so valuable, even imagining how, I mean, I can describe how close and intimate our group felt after 2 days of real, I would say, seeing one another, exploring, feeling the safety to explore what was inside me and unpack my history. And I just imagine that then on a larger scale of this journey, it's not a 2-day program like, okay, now I'm done. It's a life journey. So to actually travel with a group for a year sounds pretty incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, and the other thing I'm going to say about that, Brian, is that it's, you know, a lot of it, like I always tell people that it's very difficult to heal without your history. I mean, the reason that that the doctor, when you walk into their office because something's wrong, right? The first thing they have you do is write your medical history, you know, who had what in your family and, you know, what your ancestors lived with and died of and all that kind of stuff, right? And so that's what this program does. It goes digging into the, you know, what happened, right? As a result of this conditioning, but it also gives you what the conditioning is, where it started, who started it, how it benefits others, and all. So, because you need all of that stuff in order to understand what it is we're healing. It's very difficult to heal what we don't know that, you know, and when it comes to racism, because we've gotten so little information, it's very difficult for us to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. What happens in this today is people start to begin to put huge chunks of pieces to their puzzle together. And they're able to just really go into their body and really feel what's happening there. Because when you make that connection with the body, along with all the stuff that you're learning, what it does is it brings about a more holistic experience. So I hope that that was helpful. And Joya, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to try and contribute to what I got from participating in Race Demystified and any of the other programs. And really, I think what I got was, like you just mentioned, a really deeper understanding of the context. Why is it people behave and say the things that they do? For me specifically, it was beginning to filling in the gaps for why my own ancestry from India would say or have the attitudes that they have. Why, you know, oftentimes we might hear white bodies say, well, if we give everyone, if we have equity, then what's left for me? You know, that kind of an attitude and a way of thinking was something I really couldn't understand until I started doing this work. And suddenly this work gave me the context to actually appreciate and come from a place of curiosity and compassion for those kinds of thinking. So that's probably the biggest thing that I think anyone can walk away with from this 2-day program.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you being here. It's, you know, I know you're here because you care about this subject. I care about this subject, and I care about you, and I care about all of us getting to a place of greater knowledge and understanding and really moving the needle forward. What the 2-day does is it quickens the process of transformation. And then followed by the 12-month, it really just completely changes our lives. So I hope that as many of you as can join us will do so. I am so thankful that you took the time to be here today. I'm incredibly grateful for all of you. And what I would ask is that all of you just open up your microphone so that you can say goodbye to the rest of the group and thank the rest of the group, and thank all of you who shared and all of you who were supportive with your silence. Thank you so much for that as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your weekend. And
Thank you, everyone. Love to hear from you.
Phenomenal.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you so much, you all.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Milagros.
much.
If the ancestors are invaded.
Oh, it's great to
Thank
see
you.
Thank you.
Amazing. You're amazing.
Thank
So
you.
great.
Thank you, Milagros.
Love to all.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you, Milagros.
Peace
Thank
to
you,
all of
Milagros.
you. Thank
Thank you to
you.
everybody who shared today. Thank you.
Thank
Peace.
you. Peace.